Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional from the social sector from USA, Debra Ruh. Debra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the honor of including me. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Debra is the Chief Executive Officer of Ruh Global IMPACT. She's also the founder and executive chair of Billion Strong. She has authored 3 books, including Inclusion Branding, and spearheads a popular program called The Human Potential at Work. So, Debra, before we talk about all the amazing work that you're doing, tell me about your own amazing journey and what inspired you to start Ruh Global IMPACT.
Well, first of all, thank you again for inviting me. I really appreciate being included, and I'm very impressed with the size of your audience too. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
It really started with the birth of my daughter. I'm blessed to have 2 children, and my oldest was born with Down syndrome, and I had no experience at all I thought I had no experience with disabilities, but I certainly had no experience with Down syndrome. I'd seen people with Down syndrome, but I just knew nothing about it. So whenever I was blessed with this daughter, just like I was blessed with a son without disabilities, but it really changed my life. I started thinking, okay, well, God has put this soul in my life. Maybe there's things that I'm supposed to do to help not only her, but the community. And I was in the banking industry. I was at an executive level in the banking industry, and I was thriving in that industry. But I just felt that I wasn't doing enough.
Right.
And so I left the stable banking industry and I became an entrepreneur. And boy, that was a real tough little move. It is really hard to be an entrepreneur. We should do it, but it was a really tough little journey. But it also took me here, and I feel very blessed with the background that I've gotten to walk, especially being in what we call here corporate America. You learn a lot working for these large corporations. You learn so much about the realities of being part of a very large international organization sometimes. So it's been an interesting journey.
Absolutely. Well said. So let's talk about Ruh Global IMPACT and Billion Strong. What are the key principles that guide your work in accessibility and inclusion?
Well, I think my key principles are that we are these beautiful human beings. We're very diverse. We are diverse in so many different ways, but we know how to fully include all humans. We know how to do it. It's not, sometimes there are things that we're not really sure how to do it, but we're going to figure it out. But we have known for years how to meaningfully include people so that they can thrive no matter where they are in their life. And so I just think that a lot of it sometimes it gets discouraging, this work, because you think we've been working and working and working on this, and you look at the numbers and the data as far as inclusion of people with disabilities, and the data is grim. The data doesn't look like we've all been working as hard as we've been working, but I have to remind myself this is a global change.
Right.
And so I think what's important about this work is not only for us, even if, depending on how we want to look at this, we could look at this sort of selfishly. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, is this going to affect me? Or am I only doing this for my daughter? But the reality is, you are going to be impacted by this. You will be impacted if technology is not fully accessible. If the buildings you're trying to get into, you will be impacted at some point in your life. You might be impacted right away, but you will be impacted. So I think where we are in the world, especially as the world looking like it is right now, so confusing and so overwhelming. I think it's really important for us to start looking at these topics in different ways. I actually have a lot of hopes for other countries like, for example, India. India has a billion, almost 500 million people. My beautiful country has 330 million people.
Yeah.
And so if we could get these things right, making sure that humans are included meaningfully, it's not really as hard as that sounds, at all stages of their life. And so that we stop shifting all the burden on, you're an employer, you have to get everything right.
Yeah.
If society stepped back and said, okay, what do we have to do to make sure everyone can get it right? I really think that we could see a way forward. So Ruh Global Impact is a think tank for the disability conversation. And we bring together stakeholders and governments, the UN, NGOs, nonprofits, businesses, as well as the community, even though everything I just mentioned all has the community in it as well. There's over 1 billion people with disabilities. And the reality is, depending on how you're defining a disability, because we define them differently in the States versus the rest of the world, for example. Here in the United States, the definition of disabilities is broader than it is like at the UN's Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So sometimes I think that as we've tried to convene and come together, which is what Billion Strong is about. So I have a social enterprise, Ruh Global Impact, where we talk about these really big subjects like, is AI going to kill us all, or could AI be used to actually improve humanity and our experiences? And I think the second one is the one I'm shooting for. But Billion Strong was about, because what I found with Ruh Global Impact is we were having impact. We were having some successes, but then I realized we all know we can't really prove our successes because our community hasn't come together in a way to have a voice that resonates at all. I mean, we resonate in little pockets. And so I thought, all right, I don't know how hard this is going to be, but what if we pull everybody together with pride, like the LGBTQIA plus community did? They had very different thoughts, very different lives, but they thought if we come together, we can fight together to be included. And so, and in a way, I hate to use the word fight, but that is unfortunately the word that we have to use, because as we see groups that were making things fully accessible back off of it, that's frightening, because it makes us less independent and makes us less able to really meaningfully be included. So the think tank, the Ruh Global Impact, is all about, how do we apply what we've learned because a lot of the work that we work on is big things, like my business partner is a former Disney Imagineer, and he built Euro Disney, Tokyo Seas, Animal Kingdom, and some other attractions and big rides and stuff for Disney. And so then when he left Disney, and I met him on a project in Costa Rica, I was like, ooh, if we could apply what y'all did at Disney to the world. And it would be, we actually, I think, could really thrive from that. And I'm not saying Disney's everything. I'm just saying, one thing that Disney did do well early on was make sure everybody can experience the magic, right? And so it seems like, and I know this happens to humanity as time goes by, but it feels like sometimes we forget what we already know. And so I think things that we know is that we are human beings. We are biological creatures. If you live your life long enough, you are going to experience disabilities. It's not a threat. It's just part of being alive and this wonderful thing that we call being alive. And so, and the Billion Strong is a nonprofit focused on bringing us together to convene. Because once again, if we could convene and support each other, not to go after people, but to really almost applaud the groups that are including us and encourage better behavior, I just think it's a win for humanity. So,
well said. Well said. Thank you for a great response. Thank you. There's also, when I was reading about you and preparing for my conversation, there's also a lot of pointers in it about technology and digital inclusion. Tell me a little bit more about it, and how are you using technology to be able to support inclusion.
Yeah, and I love technology. And my dad was a technologist. He was a computer programmer and everything before anybody knew what it was. I remember he had a computer that he maintained for AT&T that was the size of a city block. It was huge. And I bet you this little phone I'm using right now has so much more computing power than that gigantic computer did all those years ago. But my dad taught me to love technology, and I know that's the bleeding edge, and technology can get us in trouble, and I've been there. But at the same time, technology has such beautiful power to really include us. And I think we should be excited about the possibilities, and look at the innovations, because looking at AI, which a lot of people are talking about right now, AI has such potential for allowing people to have more accessible, inclusive lives. And digital barriers, we all face the digital barriers. And I think also sometimes when my communities speaking passionately about being included, we'll say things like, if you aren't including us, you're leaving, millions of dollars on the table. You have to include us. But you're just leaving all this business that nobody's taking. You're just being silly businesses. When actually we are using your services. The disability community, we do have to bank. We do have to go to school. We do have to travel. But the problem with the way the systems are being built right now, the digital exclusion, is that we can only partially use your services. So maybe if I'm blind, I have a woman that works with me, and she's blind, and she lives in the Philippines. And she cannot, in the Philippines, get a bank account because they say it would be insecure for her to have a bank account because she was blind. And I said, but wait a minute, don't work with your local banks. Go to an international bank in the Philippines. And she said, oh, I am. I'm at the biggest bank in the Philippines, and they're saying that I cannot have my own bank account because they can't keep it secure.
Incredible.
And I'm like, what? We're doing that all over the world. So, and this bank, not to pick on this one bank, but this one bank is also doing it in other parts of the world, but chooses not to do it in the Philippines, their home country. And it's not even that, I'm not even picking on them, but the realities, we all need access to technology, and the technologists want us to do the upgrades. And the banks don't just want us to have basic checking accounts and saving accounts. They want us to invest with them. They want us to use all their products and services. But we can't, because they're not accessible. And then we being, and I'm definitely part of this group, as you get to a certain age, you acquire more disabilities. In America, we have something called the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, and a very popular organization in the United States. And they recently said that of their members, 55 years and older, all Americans, 67% have disabilities. So now what are we talking about here? We're almost talking about everybody, right? So I think we need to be excited about what technology could do to enhance humankind, what it could do to make our cities smarter. And nothing is smart if it has not included all of the human beings. It's just not smart.
Fascinating.
Right.
And can you give me an example or share a story where technology has dramatically improved someone's quality of life?
Can give you so many stories, but I won't keep you on here for hours. But there's like the exoskeleton. I don't know if your audience knows about the exoskeleton, but it is pretty popular. And the exoskeleton now allows people that have been hurt in any kind of accident where they can't walk. It allows your bones still need, whether you can walk or not, your bones still need to stand up. I mean, your body needs to stand up so that your bones can, get the right weight and the pressure and all the stuff. And so exoskeletons have changed so many people's lives and made them stronger. But then you also have the bionic eyes. And there's so much, right? You have the 3D printing. 3D printing changed everything for children that needed prosthesis and adults that needed prosthesis, but almost more for children, because children, which we want, grow. And children are growing all the time. So you fit this perfect prosthesis on their arm and then they grow. Yeah. So then so what used to happen was they were so expensive that you just had to try to work with what you had. But now with 3D printing, you can figure out what color, you can put Spider-Man or princesses so things like that have really, really improved lives. Yeah. But also allowing us, I'll tell you one more, allowing us to stay independent. Now we have devices like Google Home, Amazon Alexa, and other smart devices that allow us to, for example, it can control your air conditioning. It can control whenever you're leaving your house. It can automatically make sure your garage door is shut. When you're coming back to your house, it can open that garage door for you in a way. It allows us so much independence. It allows us to take better care of ourselves. It allows us, and I'll tell you one more cute one. Well, it's not cute, but it's amazing. There's an app called Be My Eyes. And it's such a simple, beautiful app. And what it does is it allows somebody that's blind to hit the app and immediately get a volunteer to help them with it. So I'll use an example. My son signed up, and my son got a request and he picked it up, and it was from a woman. I forget what country it was, but she wanted to make sure she was going to eat soup for lunch. And so she asked him to she held her camera up, and she asked him to identify which can Pop Top was soup. And because she also had some that were Pop Tops that were fruit, and she didn't want fruit, she wanted soup. And so my son was able to tell her which one it was, and he was thrilled to help this woman. Amazing. And so out of the gate, they got like 6 million volunteers. And now it's like, so technology is beautiful for what it can do for human beings.
Thank you. Thank you. You also are very closely associated with the United Nations and the International Labour Organizations. What insights have you gained from them that have helped you, both in Ruh Global Impact and Billion Strong?
Oh, thank you. I love and appreciate the United Nations. I know that they have a big job to do, and I think it's really hard to do it when you're in a world like we're in. But I just really appreciate what they do. And I think as I was learning about the United Nations over these last 30 years, I believed that they had a whole lot more power to get things done than they actually do. And that's just good education. But at the same time, I appreciate the conversations that they're having. And I find that collaborating with the United Nations is when I started just personally collaborating with the United Nations, I saw better impact. And so we still have a lot of work to do at the United Nations, in governments. I mean, there's a lot of work to do in this changing world. I mean, yeah, but I think the thing that I like about the United Nations and the ILO and the Global Compact is that it really is about collaborating together to get more done. And so I think I like, in a lot of ways, the United Nations better than others, because when I go in the United Nations, I don't feel like I'm just talking for one country. It's like, okay, but what's India doing? Oh, what's Bangladesh doing? No, what's happening in Cuba? What's happening in Guyana or Ghana, or right? So I think a mistake that we all continue to make, but certainly they make in my beautiful country in the United States, is thinking it's just about us. That's wrong. It is not just about us. We are all so connected. We are all so blended now. We are all in this. we're all in this.
Correct.
But I am excited about the innovations and partnering with the UN more and more, and governments coming in and partnering with the UN. That even though everything isn't perfect, I still think we're moving in the right direction. Generally.
Great response. Great response. I have time for 2 or 3 more questions for you, Debra.
Thank you.
I've often seen, and I think you also mentioned this a few minutes back, on how disability is looked at differently in different countries. But disability is also viewed differently culturally in different societies.
Yes.
I'd love to get your perspective on what challenges do you face when advocating for disability rights in different cultural contexts?
Oh, that's such a good question. And it's so true. And and I remember as I started early on in my career, as I started being invited all over the world to speak, I was really surprised at the way, for example, when I spoke in Turkey, in Ankara, beautiful people in Turkey. Oh, but what they were doing is that obviously they don't speak English and I don't speak Turkish. And so the translator was talking, and the translator was speaking first in Turkish, and then they were going to translate it in English. And so a parent stood up and said something, and I didn't understand yet, but I was waiting. But the audience turned and they looked at me, and so I could tell something big had been said. And then I waited just for a moment, and the parent had said, "It never occurred to me that I could be proud of my child with a disability." Wow. Just never. Nobody ever suggested that. It was always seen as, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you. I'm so sorry." And I got that with my daughter in the United States. When my daughter was born with Down syndrome, and I had other girlfriends that were also having babies, everybody was gushing about their babies, but sad for me. No, you need to gush over my beautiful baby girl too. Babies with Down syndrome are beautiful too. But the cultural differences are staggering, and something that often whenever we're doing this kind of work, you have somebody like me that come from another country. I'm a subject matter expert, and I'm going to come in and tell you how to do it in your country. Well, the realities of doing that, for example, when I was in Kenya, they told me that, and I'd heard this, but wow, it's chilling to hear it in person. But for example, if you're an albino, which means you don't have pigment in your skin, well, the witch doctors think that you have powerful blood, and they'll kidnap them and keep them alive anyway. Or if the baby is born with an albinoism, you could leave it in the woods, and the husband can divorce the wife. What? Oh, because the reason why you have these babies is because you cheated on your husband. Oh. No,
I know.
No, that is not true.
Correct.
Right. So, but it's just not in Kenya. I mean, we have these cultural barriers here in the United States. You have it in India. I mean, the karma, what you did in your last life, and and then in some countries they're embarrassed, and so they hide their people with disabilities. I know that I've said this on air many times, but in Panama, they went to do a census, and they sent census workers into the mountains. People were hiding their children with disabilities because they were afraid the Panamanian government was coming in to take their children away. No, we just want to know that you're here so we can count you. But so there's so much misinformation, and I mean, we still are killing children with disabilities in some countries. It's, by the way, not legal in any country for you to do that, but we recently had something horrible happen in India too, and I'm not even going to tell y'all what happened because it was just so horrible. But I thought, how desperate did that mother have to be to do that act? And so disabilities is so common. It's everywhere. It's normal. But we don't treat it that way. And people's lives are really, really messed up because we don't value what it means to be human. What does it mean to be truly human?
Mm.
I mean, I'm neurodiverse. I have ADHD, and I didn't figure that out. I didn't get diagnosed with that till like 10 years ago. But I look at my report cards and my different stuff from school. Wow. Disruptive, always interrupting.
Mm.
It doesn't apply yourself. Very classic things you hear about people with ADHD.
Absolutely.
I'm bored with your class. Come on, pick up the teaching skills. But it's
Well
right.
said.
That is a huge point, though, that you brought up. It's
Very
huge
well said.
because, yeah.
I agree. Debra, we've run out of time now, but I wish I could keep speaking to you for much longer. But thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. I mean, I think the amount of work that you're doing for inclusion is really commendable, both through both your organizations, Impact, Ruh Global Impact, and Billion Strong. Thank you for the amazing stories you gave me from your experiences around the world. I think you're doing really an incredible amount of work to support inclusion, not just in the US, but all over the world. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.